Vault 2. Vault is, in the women's event, it tends to be something that, depending on the amount of fat twitch muscle born with, you can do well or not. And she can. Handspring 1.5 with a half twist. In women's vault, it's divided into 5 categories according to difficulty. And in this event, although it's competition 3, because it's a qualification round, they're going by the competition 2 rules. They must perform 2 vaults. And then those 2 vaults are average. Now, they can perform 2 the same, so she could go back and do that same vault again and try and get a better landing on it. Or she could perform something a little better.
And these 2 scores are average, and the given final score is 10 marks out of 10.
Well, if you can understand the announcer once again as Hulan Mo of China, 9.550. Second jump, which will be averaged with the first, a mark of 10. And as Monica Phelps, our resident expert, pointed out, she really does have very powerful legs and doing a good job to absorb and slow down the rotation in the landing there. It looked like she was going to tumble over at one stage, so a good recovery maybe on the first vault, as the youngster from China tends to improve on the second.
Yes, and that was a stuck landing. You see, the landing penalties are very, very hard in this new code. The slightest murmur is deductible, so even a body adjustment is deductible. And if they take up to 2 or 3 steps, they can lose 4/10. And this really is a preventative measure to encourage good technique and reduce the ankle injuries. Just a little bit of knee bend on this twist.
But certainly a better second vault for Mo. Dual apparatus final with 236 men competing. An improvement there for Hulan Mo. So good standings for the young Chinese girl as we go on to the asymmetric bars.
And Romania's Nadia Hatagan. Every time we hear the word Nadia, we think of the great Nadia Comaneci, who really put Romanian gymnastics, the women, right up on the map. And we in Britain are benefiting from that Romanian knowledge, having Adrian Stan as our women's national coach. The magnesium carbonate that they put on their hands to avoid slipping, and they all have their special mix of spit and chalk. Some of them, like the bars, which are actually made of fiberglass and not wood, covered in chalk, and others like them nice and clean. So Nadia Hatagan, ready for her exercise. Looking for 3 B elements, 1 C element and 2 D elements in this competition 3. One release and catch out of the way. There's the Ginger after the full twisting giant. Good transition from low to high bar, the Kashev. Not quite to handstand, but counts. Blind change forward giant, double front flyaway tough.
That doesn't seem to have done Nadia Hatagan's confidence any harm at all there. A good start for her first performance in this second subdivision in the women's qualification.
And in slow motion with the overhead view, we did see some bent arms, and really in this day and age, the penalty for bent arms is extortionate. 2/10 she can be penalized, and we'll just see how true to form the judges are being.
the last tumble, and Valeri, well, he'll be very lucky indeed to qualify for that particular individual final. Soo Young-hoo of Korea with the first of her 2 vaults.
And there we see a tremendous difference in standard between the Chinese and the Korean girl. Handspring 1.5 tucked with a very late half twist, suggesting under rotation. They're just managing to scrape round the twist. In fact, I think the judges, she didn't have a straight body to enable her to twist efficiently, so she'll have a heavy penalty.
9.762 for Nadia Hatagan of Romania. Now that could keep her in the top 8 and the qualification placing.
Front uprise to handstand into forward giant. The Mexican Morano on the A-bars. Nice to see some Mexican women. A long time since we've seen them represented in the World Championships. Not doing badly there. Double pipes fly away. But swinging nicely, traveling easily, transition over and under the bars. Good circling actions, but not in the same class as Hatagan. Hatagan's 9.76 will really be difficult to beat. Jump forward on landing, going to cost her over a 10.
And there are the vault scores of the Korean. 5th position, 9.312, the average scoring of those 2 vaults for Soo Young.
Eurosport Live.
Will you rejoin us with Hayley Edgell on the asymmetric bars? And for those of you awaiting the score of Peter Hogan of Australia, 8.950. 11th position, which is not good enough to put Peter into the final.
And the top score so far on bars is from Hatagan of Romania, 9.7. So we know, the gymnasts know exactly what they're up against. So that's the highest score that we've seen to date. On this routine, clean, but nowhere near that level of performance. As she rotates, you can see the knees and feet slacken. There, the shoot front Barani out, long, not lifted above the bar, and rather tatty around the leg. And I'm being observant rather than critical. Farazzi from Italy scoring 9.318 on vault. 10 out of 10 for trying on that dismount. Hayley Edgell there, 8.012. Judging really particular on this new code. Nice for our gymnast.
Bring you that score as Kochikova in her 2nd vault.
Pity about the landing. It was a long one. Handspring, 1.5 pike with a half twist, 9.9 tariff. Tariff being the degree of difficulty, the maximum score available on such a vault. Just not managing to hold that landing. They should stay still in really almost a parallel-footed plie position before their attractions in his life. A different lifestyle totally, and that could have something to do with his lack of form. Podkopieva, the vault. Oh, pity. She had a lovely fly out of the 1.5 into the twist. That really had far more rotation than she suspected. She could have even flown into the twist earlier there. The opening, anticipating the landing by bringing the feet under her hips, causing the step back. It could be, now that she's developed the feel, that she could produce a really super 2nd vault. 2 vaults, the average of the 2. They are entitled to do the same vault twice, or they can do different vaults. (9.625). That was a healthy score on the 1st vault, considering the landing, because Got a foot penalty and a change in shape causing the foot penalty. From the Ukraine, was in Birmingham in the World Championships last year. She's a bit more beefy since then, put on a bit of weight. Yes, yes, she really did. Good brain, good kinesthetic awareness, knew exactly what she had to do to alter that timing on the landing. And stocky little gymnast, good power on vault. And from this overhead angle in the slow-mo, we should see the length. Good length, very good length indeed. Longer than her body away from the horse. Nice thrust. In slow motion, we saw that she still was a little bit under-rotated, but by far the better vault of the two. But of course, they're average, so her first will count against her.
And that's good enough to put her into second position, 9.668. That's just ahead of the Russian who jumped before her. Lilia Podkopayeva goes second, and here's the girl that we've all been waiting to see. And Monica, she looks a little beefier, a little stronger, but let's see if the temperament and the mind is a little more settled and mature than we saw in the Worlds a year ago.
Difficult vault. Well, even though she was very light in 93 and very exciting, she did have some very bad technical faults, but because of her size, they were disguised, the speed of her work. Now we see that really she hasn't matured and got out of those bad technical faults. Very bent arms on the top of the horse. I think that we would term that vault as tariff bashing, going for difficulty and not form. Hit and hope, and she hit and missed.
Well, asymmetric bars is her favourite of all the apparatus, but she knows that if she's to compete in the all-around competition, she needs to have a good start to these World Championships, and 9.550, well, that is by virtue of the high tariff. With the second vault coming up, Dominique Dawes of the United States of America.
Yeah, that 9.55, I believe that was just too generous. 1.5 twists. That was better, but the first one had such bent arms, bent legs all the way over, totally over-rotated. She ran on the landing, and I really do think 9.55 was generous. That was a much better vault, the second one. There's the Arab Spring, the Yurchenko entry, bent arms again, but better twist, but still so badly judged. She had to take a huge step at the end. And really, we're talking about a gymnast of world-class caliber, and the landing is badly judged. Only just scraping more marks, 9.575.
And seventh position for Dominique Dawes there, with a lot of talented and established gymnasts to come. She'll be lucky to qualify to the final in the vault, but she'll look forward to her chance in the asymmetric bars, as we said earlier, Dominique's most favoured event. And also we will now, even more keenly than before, await to see Shannon Miller, to see if she can perform just a little better than her teammate Dominique, to give us a form indication of the American squad.
I think it could be that Shannon will hang on to her form better because she's a lighter physique. Potentially she's not going to be so large, and she was always tighter than Dominique. And here, the bars being prepared with just the right amount of chalk and water. Notice that some gymnasts work with hand guards and some without. And all coaches recommend the use of hand guards, but at the end of the day, you can drive a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can't make them wear guards. And then when they do rip in training, well, what do we say? Told you so. Just cuts down a couple of days' training.
So working away to prepare the A-bars for her first performance is Chiara Ferrazzi of Italy.
Giving the bars a mean look there. Full twist in the giant. Line change. Vernon hop over. Oh, nice. Back somersault. Nice flight element, different. Another full twist. Nice combination there, the full twist into the catch-up. Of course, the catch-up coming from the men's high bar work. And a big dismount. Full twisting double back, but unfortunately, it really isn't worth doing if you fall off the landing mat. And I don't mean to be cruel, but this is the name of the game. The losses are so great on the landings that sometimes they're not worth doing. But of course, every gymnast has his or her personal reasons for using an element. If she's in here for experience, then the coach will say, right, throw the big dismount. Doesn't matter, you're only in here for experience. You don't stand a chance of getting into the medals. Let's see how you cope with it on the big day.
Well, I don't think Miss Ferrazzi can be faulted for her determination. She really did psych herself up right from the beginning and even right to the end there. That look of determination upon the young 17-year-old's face. A very gutsy and tough performer, I feel there, Monica. Not an easy one to coach, probably.
Probably not, but I wouldn't mind a few of her in my gym. Big dismount, but in slow motion we actually saw she had a hand touch. She put her hand on the floor, so she'll have a bad landing penalty. Kosigi from Japan, having done her first vault 9.262, must have been a bit of a catastrophe to go down that low. But Marie never was a particularly strong vaulter. And she's quite hefty and needs lots of power to be able to use that weight. Full twisting Yurchenko.
And again we see slow motion.
Yeah, the first must have been a mistake. 9.8 tariff for the full twisting Yurchenko. And it only seems like yesterday that Natalia Yurchenko performed that vault for the first time. 1983. That's when it was, and now so many gymnasts throughout the world are able to do the vault so competently.
Chiara Ferrazzi of Italy waits patiently for her score from the judges for her routine on the asymmetric bars. Finally, we see a little smile. The coach has finally broken the ice there, and she'll have learned a lot from this.
Yeah, she looks a very hungry gymnast. 9.312.
For Kasugi of Japan, she won't. We're staying with the women's competition. I feel to see Yelena Piskun of Belarus, the world champion in the vault from Birmingham last year. Marilu Cousinho of Canada prepares for the asymmetric bars as Chiara goes into 4th position, and that keeps her in the 8 and could be one of Italy's first qualifiers for a world championship final in the asymmetric bars. The Canadian girl, now Cousinho.
Nice hex transition to the high bar into front uprise. And the judges would consider this as close bar work because a lot of the moves, the hips aren't away from the bars. And in the exercise she will incur an overall deduction. Nice whip giant there, building up into the double layout dismount. But the gymnasts at the top of the world producing such high-level performances that the middle-of-the-road gymnasts, as I would consider we're seeing here, they really have to perform a perfectly executed routine on the difficulty that they have to stand a chance of getting anywhere.
Our first chance to take a look at number 309. Yelena Piskun, the world vault champion, and a title that she collected in emphatic style last year in Birmingham. Well, I have to admit it's been a year since I've seen Jelena in action, and this will be one that we will all be watching very carefully. She's performed well. The scoreboard tells us on the first vault 9.687, and by our recollection here and accounts, that puts her on target to go into first position in this vault qualification. Remember, only 8 will go through to the finals at the weekend.
Oh, and just peel off a double twist like that and land still, and that's the world champion for you. You know, it looks as though she's going for a morning stroll. No effort at all. The Yurchenko with double twist. It wasn't perfect. She was a little under-twisted towards the end, but when you're doing a 10 tariff vault in one of the first rounds in competition 3, and you haven't had the general warm-up procedure of 3 competitions, it really just shows how much in touch she was. Kusinner, 9.5 for that bars, and that really was a good score. She ought to be pleased with that. Probably a personal best. To get 9.5 in a world championship is no mean feat.
Hulan Mo of China, the last performer in rotation 2 on the asymmetric bars.
And we saw Hattigan do a Gaylord, and we've heard that Mao is the same, and this just looks tasty. Beautiful shape, forward giant, Gaylord tough. And the Chinese always come up with a perler. They have since, oh, what a shame. No. Back in 81, Ma Yan Hong, world champion, now Marshi, coaching in Liverpool and passing on her words of wisdom. I'm sure she'll be watching that and almost crying for the kids. And that will knock her right out. Nice pike giant forward, high Kachev. And that really was such poetry, absolute beauty and difficulty, and the pace was going just right. And she probably caught that 99 times out of 100.
Well, that really is a very sad, and the tears will quite rightly start to flow there. She looks so strong and confident, but it really is a very, very fine line that these girls are playing with. And the mistake coming here in slow motion just misses the grip. And, well, the camera doesn't quite catch the look on the face of the young Chinese girl. And the Chinese women's team have got such a great record in the asymmetric bars. You go back to Barcelona, Li Lu taming the gold medal in this. And she's probably saying to the coach, why didn't I grip? Why didn't I catch it in competition? I always do it in the gym. And that's sad. But, Monica, it's good to see the coach there. World Championships gym, no matter where it be, there is still a lesson to be learned.
There is, but I have the distinct feeling that if it wasn't the World Championship, he wouldn't be speaking to her. I am sure that the lovely, friendly spirit of the Chinese coaches that comes over isn't always there. I think he'll be furious.
9.337, sixth position for Hulan Mo of China. And there is the leader of the vault competition. The world champion is on target to successfully defend her title. As Jelena Piskin for Belarusia goes into top spot in the women's vault. And we take another break from this particular rotation as we move on to rotation 3. Competitors are looking at
Eurosport Live.
We reach the third rotation. This the qualification. If you've just joined us live here on Eurosport for the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, for 4.5 hours for Gina Goshen of Romania. And just a little off balance on the landing. The Romanian who really did have a marvellous World Championships in Birmingham a year ago. Silver medal to Shannon Miller in the all-around of the top 8 as we return once again to the women's vault. Sally Willis of Australia with the first of her 2 springs.
Oh dear, bit of a disaster, but she is a tall gymnast. And you know, the Australians have done so well because they came into the sport late and they're now ranked 6th in the world. And I don't really think that they will ever surpass what they did at the World Championships in Indianapolis. And Wills' second vault, 8.837. Remember that her fall, 2 hands on the floor, cost her 5/10 on that. And also it wasn't a particularly high scoring vault. Handspring 1.5 tucks only comes in the mid category. Now she can repeat that vault. I'm sure she will and try and do it better. Yes, but very snatched from the top, obviously lacking in power and flight, but probably for her, one of her best efforts. But certainly knowing where the floor was a bit better on the second vault, but as the 2 vaults are average, the first one's going to cost her pretty badly. Dominique Dawes preparing the A-bars. We've already seen her on vault.
Well, this was the apparatus that caused a lot of contention and argument after the World Championships of '93, where she claimed the silver medal to her teammate Shannon Miller. Many thought it should have been the gold. So this could be sweet revenge for Dawes here.
Strong, but really hasn't got the raw material of a great line, and aesthetically, this does count. But you can't take away from her the magnificent strength, front uprise to handstand. Giant full. Oh. Well, technically, we can't take anything away from that, can we? I mean, the dismount was so well executed. Just look at the front uprise there, but wide-armed and often bent-armed. This is the problem. She's really concentrated on her leg line, always together, despite the fact she hasn't got a very good stretch. But the full twist in the somersault and managing to line out, the hours of training that dismount must have taken.
Well, Hattigan leads for Romania, 9.762. 20th spot, 9.056 for Willis of Australia. And we will await that score of Dominique Dawes very patiently indeed, as she, it seems, has thrown down the gauntlet to Shannon Miller. Only the top 8 go forwards, but of course there's a lot of prestige and pride with the top placings in each of the qualification apparatus.
And here, talking to Wills is Rodionenko, the Russian coach that trained the magnificent Russian team to the 1981 World Championships. And he really is now in Australia doing a superb job. But I just wonder whether he can manage to coach gymnasts with lacking in the raw material that he's used to coping with, you know, tall gymnasts instead of those selected small ones.
9.725, and Dominique Dawes, surprisingly, goes into second position behind Hattigan of Romania. Means that we'll be with you for 4 hours this morning and 4 hours tomorrow morning as we return to the women's vault with the defending world champion Pisquin still holding on to top position. This looks to be number 336, which is Sandra Tomaszko of Germany.
Interesting to see the psychological preparations that the gymnasts undergo, because they matter so much. In their minds, they précis the highlighted points that their coaches or that they particularly have to think of. Thrust from the apparatus, shape in the air, and mental and physical preparation for landing. Because remember, as the splash in the water is and the gymnasts wait for a signal from the judges in the form of a green light above the head judge's table. And this, a little bit of a delay, but we must have sympathy with the judges because they have many gymnasts, 100 and odd gymnasts to go through on the women's side and over 200 in the men's, and they really must get their act together accurately from the beginning. If their scores start going astray at this stage in the game, when we get to the end, they would really be in trouble. 9:087 for the first vault. 2 vaults, and their average. So far, most gymnasts have produced the same vault twice. And that will be down in the 8th, handspring 1.5 for Arnie out. Not really having the pace to cope with it. And the reason that she didn't get around in the twist was because she lacked rotation. The gymnast has to have the availability of rotation to stretch before twisting. In the piked position, it's impossible to twist that anchor's twist.
Be made. It will be a capacity 10,500 crowd. 8.912 for Tomaszko of Germany, 23rd position. We go back to the women's vault, and one of Britain's entries, Karen Semenko.
Oh dear, and disaster struck. Don't really know why. Missed a hand on the top, I would suspect. Yes, she did. Unfortunately for Gareth Davis, who's just standing in the background, her personal coach, he would see that coming, but she really did have a bad run-up. It looked like no-go from the start. Karen Simcoe, originally from Leatherhead Gymnastics Club, and moved to Belthorne.
Okay, well, it looks like we move on yet again to the asymmetric bars of the girls, and possibly to see one of the, well, I was about to say Belarusian girls. Yeah, Yelena Pushkin, but that's certainly not the leader of the vault, which looks like Svetlana Chorkina of Russia. That familiar black slip of the Russian team. And Chorkina, well, one of the new names to come to these World Championships here in Australia, and of course with 1 or 2 tumbles and not the best of performances from Dominique Dawes and Mo of China, the top 8 for the qualification of the asymmetric bars is still quite open in this women's competition.
Svetlana Chorkina, hex mount to the top bar. And she really has to go some because she's got to exceed 9.762 to go into the lead. Nice gainer, somersault to handstand, as we saw from Mao. Forward giant. Well, it was good, but for my money, I'm just trying to weigh up between Hattigan, Dawes, and Chorkina. I think I'd stick my neck out and put her in 3rd place. So let's see. There's now a position to judge, but we have to try and examine how the competition is going.
0.0. Enter.
Good skills level.
0.0.
Jump forward. A little slackness on her knees and feet in comparison to the 2 highest scorers so far.
Svetlana Chorkina, the last competitor in this 3rd rotation and the women's asymmetric bars. Getting very close indeed now, this A-bars competition for the girls. 9.762, Hattigan of Romania leads, and Dominique Dawes of the United States of America. 9.725 for second position. Now, if she could split the Romanian and the American, well, that really would guarantee her a place. As we move to the last of the vaulters, Yariza Julian of Puerto Rico.
And that's the plain Sukahara pikes. Obviously, the Puerto Ricans into the competition, the World Championship level for the first time on the women's side, and very much for experience. The very fact that the gymnast is large and the vault is a Sukahara suggests that they're just really getting to grips with the modern methods of coaching and the modern science of gymnastics. But everybody has to start somewhere. Oh, Corkine has gone into the lead. I would have put a bet on third place. She did have more difficulty, but Blacker, 9.812. That's a surprise.
And the first surprise, one has to say, in this women's competition qualification. No medals being decided today, but very interesting, the judges marking in the women's A-bars, and it's certainly something that we will watch through in the last rotation of this women's qualification, as Julian, the Puerto Rican, takes her second vault.
And really a wise choice of vaults. Two Sukahara's pikes, scoring only sort of just below the 9s, but far better to go in and perform something that she can handle. As we've seen already, many people come to grief because they're trying too much, and on the pressure of the day, they just can't cope with it. And the second vault will score very much the same as the first, so she'll come out in the high 8-9s.
Becker, 23rd position there for Julian. Well, welcome back to the 1994 World Gymnastic Championships from Brisbane in Australia. We've come to an end of our live broadcast as there is a short break, but that gives us an ideal opportunity to take a look back at the action that happened earlier on this morning.
Kelly back in the Rome, and then in 64, then they had some barren years, and then since the late 70s, they really have come to the fore. Paolo Bucci, Yuri Cecchi, Boris Preti.
On number 384, preparing there for Russia is Dina Kochetkova.
And Leonid Arkeev, who had just given Vasilenko the rough end of the stick off of that floor routine. Kochetkova had better watch herself, because I don't think that he's the kind of man who can stomach two failures in close succession. And I think she'll know that. So Dina Kochetkova to A-bars. And she looks nice. Full-twisting giant Katchev inwards. Reverse salto to handstand on the bottom bar. Clear to Shapaznikova. Nice combination. There, change of direction on flight. A little bit of knee bend on the scoop. Dynamically, an excellent routine. I think the balance of the routine wasn't as good as it might have been as regards difficulties, because the first half was action-packed and different. And I think this is what bar workers lack in the last few years, variety. And there was such variety in about fifth. And Kochetkova coming into fourth place there at 9.7. You may as well put, instead of training on 6 pieces, they can put all of their eggs into one basket. But it really gives a chance for the expert on one piece of apparatus to come through. But this is rare. This is very rare. I think it's likely to happen possibly on vault and floor. But the overall development of the gymnast is necessary, the strength and the speed that they require from their training on 6 pieces, generally, for them to progress beyond the norm on one piece. Two big steps back on that Yurchenko with a full twist. Didn't recognize the motif of the Ukraine.
Well, a little confusion in the commentary box here, but this seems to be Elizabeth Valle of the Spanish team. And the 389 we can now confirm.
9162 on the first vault. Obyurchenko with a full twist. The Spaniards really having lost some of their top gymnasts, Eva Rueda and Rodriguez in the men's, really going through a few barren years. That second vault's the same, 2 vaults for the women, and the score's average. And now we'll look at it in slow motion. The Arab spring, backward takeoff like a backflip, then 1.5 somersaults straight from the hands, incorporating a full twist. Very important that the gymnasts get a good sprint.
Well, as you hear the announcer saying that brings a rotation 1 to an end for the women, and also rotation 2 for the men to an end. We'll take another short commercial break, but we'll be back with the finale of the early morning action from the 1994 World Gymnastics. Fontaine of the United States of America in her second vault. Both the vaults are added together and divided to give an average score for the 2 jumps.
And relative to the scoring so far, 9-6. A good score. The highest we've had has been in the 9-7s. Trying an extra half twist there. Have a look at it in slow motion and digest the moves. The Arab spring, the back flip, and there only actually a half twist.
So Larissa Fontaine not quite as effective on the second as the first, I should say. It's the second rotation in the first of the 3 subdivisions in the women's competition, but an average, well, the same. My mistake, 9.600. Goes, well, to the women's vault once again, and the Ukraine, Oksana Kniznik in her first vault.
It's a different leotard. Nice to see a different neckline. Oh, yes. Very, very solid. Brilliant attack. And just seeing her run down to the apparatus tells you exactly how positive. Beautiful, positive half twist. Pity that she didn't nail the landing a little better than that even.
And that was only equaled in the later subdivisions by Alan Norbert of Canada. So before we go into the last live broadcast in around about 30 minutes here on Eurosport, that was one of the best floor exercises of the competition so far for Lee.
And that really makes us look forward to Neil Thomas's performance, because if 9.4 is the ultimate mark to date, then I think that Neil Thomas stands a chance of matching that mark. But of course, with the change in the code, that's why the marks are lower. It's not because the gymnasts aren't performing so well. But every little error is critical. Oksana Kniznik to her second vault. 1.5 somersault, half twist. And that was solid. She knew where the floor was. So many gymnasts come over and the floor hits them. But in her case, she knew exactly where she was. She might be light, but she's powerful. A lot of fast twitch. Landed with a good leg distance, hips distance apart. mount.
9.643 for Oksana Koniecznik, and that's a very impressive Friday, Saturday and Sunday, with Thursday the men's all-around and then Friday the women's all-around competition, and a huge amount of coverage from Eurosport, which is great to see for gymnastic fans and those who've always shown an interest but haven't seen a lot of it on the TV of late. We're preparing now for the asymmetric bars.
Andrea and Krakowian, silver medalist in Birmingham in '93 in the all-around World Championships. Superb gymnast, little bundle of dynamite. And she is one of the people who could overhaul the leaders, so we're looking for in excess of a 9.762. Or 9.812, sorry. She's short and dynamic. There's half twist, forward half twist into Ginga. That touch on the bottom bar will probably be enough. No, this routine isn't going to be enough to take the top score. I didn't know that was coming. But there was just something about the tempo of the routine. Her shoulder angle had started to close. The bar work had become closer. And the beginning of the exercise didn't have enough difficulty. But potentially in shape, a very good gymnast. But didn't quite get the right shape on those accelerated giants. Her double straight took her in towards the bar instead of away from it. And Octavian, the coach, was a clean exercise but lacking in difficulty.
Fourth position, 9.162 for Andrea Karkovian. Well, one has to say, if she hadn't had lost that grip and come off halfway through her routine, that could have been easily a first position. Preparing the asymmetric bars for her routine is Ya Qiao, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, of China, number 375. And the indication from the judges that she can go. Well, you can decide for yourselves back home if my pronunciation of Ya Qiao is correct.
It's going into my memory banks from conversations, so I won't contradict yet. Already seen Mao, the young star from China, come to grief. And yet another. And that was going to be a wonderful piked Jaeger. She released just a fraction too early, which took her a minuscule amount away from the bars. But so many gymnasts go for the move and they don't go for it with the most amplitude, and that is making the movement as high as it possibly can, make the pike as deep as it possibly can fold. And this is where the Chinese do. They really do go for the move, and it either comes off or it fails. But boy, when it comes off, it's magnificent. Inward flippet. So that's the front away or fly away, double somersault, and in the second somersault a half twist. And that most certainly would be developed on a trampoline. But you see, she got her fingertips to the bar, but she was just the tiniest, her judgment just the tiniest bit out. And most gymnasts don't even have the judgment to do it that well anyway.
Fifth position, 9.025, so second disappointment of the morning for the Chinese squad, with two of their top performers dropping into the lower placings. This was the second rotation of the A subdivision before we return live for the finale of the qualification to the individual apparatus. Olga Kim of Kazakhstan next to take to the A bars.
That was a strong combination, full twisting giant into the Ginger. Oh dear, what a shame. Lovely group of elements there from Kim. She'd come down to the bar. She was just about to complete a nice series, ending in a hex to the top bar, and she came to grief. I think one hand slipped off. She's got 30 seconds in which to get back onto the apparatus, and that, of course, will cost her 5/10. Plus, she'll have broken what would have been a splendid combination. But obviously, the chances of winning the gold, as she would be after, out. Now, she would have been one of the medalists, almost certainly.
Well, that's why we're following the qualification, see which of the big names and the big stars get knocked out in the early part of these 1994 World Championships. Disappointment for Olga Kim, as we'll take another short commercial break, but we'll be back with the finale to this early action from the World Championships in Australia.
Brisbane, Australia, hosts the 1994 World Gymnastics Championships. The world's best travel down under for this outstanding...
Yukina's vault score there, 9-3.
Kathy Kaiser of Australia in the asymmetric bars.
Rodionenko, ex-Soviet coach, there watching Kathy. Nice tight giant into Jaeger, and this necessary for a change of direction. Kachev, that's the second big release and catch. Double back flyaway, which now is only a B element, and in competition 3 they are expected to produce a D dismount.
Well, Kathy Kaiser possibly giving us the best home nation performance we've seen so far this morning, and quite rightly the crowd giving a much louder and rowdier round of applause for Kathy.
Well, that's superb gymnastics. It's not... I mean, for the Australians to envisage producing a gymnast of that caliber 4 or 5 years ago, they wouldn't have envisaged it.
And as you pointed out earlier, Monica, 6th position in the world behind the more established and big nations of the sport really does put Australian gymnastics on it.
Kathy Kaiser, 9.175. 5th place in the field that she's in a World Championships. Excellent. Amanda Borden from the USA. I haven't seen her compete before. I've heard of her and read about her in magazines, but never actually seen her in action. Full twisting giant. Nice catch, Ev. Good flight, good distance. And another double flyaway called a Mercer, first innovated by British gymnast Sarah Mercer. She was the first person to do it. And now, of course, a very, very popular dismount. Leg flicker there that isn't noticed before the Kachev. And notice the coaches on the podium being allowed to be there. Far better that the coach pushes the gymnast's rear end than they land on the bottom bar.
Well, a new star in the making for the American team. Amanda Borden certainly seemed to enjoy her first apparatus in these championships. We'll await the score from the judges. Preparing in the vault. And Park for Korea.
Park Ki-young. The scoreboard that you see, that indicates the number that the gymnast, the number of the vault the gymnast is about to do. There are 4 sections of vaults, and they have to nominate before they go. They can't run down and then, if their run isn't going right, change their vault. They have to produce what they have designated, otherwise they get a penalty. Handspring 1.5 pikes. I know it's easier to put a half twist on so the landing isn't blind, but that just indicates another 6 to 7 months' work. The travelling forward, the landing is blind, and if you can do an excellent vault where you can open out the hips and see the landing, then it's not dangerous. And Borden into first position.
A lot of activity towards the end of this subdivision A in the final rotation, with the leaderboard changing. Ji Young Park of Korea with her second vault.
Nine, 4, 1, 2, and for a 9-8 tariff vault. That's a very good score. Just rolled out a little bit. She can either produce the same vault or try to put a half twist on that vault, because it's the average of the two that count. Oh dear. Just did not keep her motivation. If she's produced it once, she can produce it a second time. So many times. I wish I had £1 for every time I said that to a gymnast.
Gymnastics in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. We've seen some marvellous action throughout this morning. This broadcast began at 8 a.m. Central European time, joining a lot of Eurosport's viewers over their breakfast. And we've gone throughout the morning seeing some of the world's best excel and also some big surprises, particularly in the men's pommel horse.
Now we're in the qualifying rounds of competition 3, and their world champion heads them in a very jazzy tracksuit, very much more...
Neil Thomas, silver medalist from the World Championship. Neil really is set. If he can keep the nerves behind him or keep the butterflies down in the tummy, really has got an excellent opportunity. World Championship medal, as there is a whole line of gymnastics stars there, Monica.
Reminds me so much of Lukin in his body language. Very similar type gymnast. And Neil Thomas opened up on floor with their hands. Every competition has a 12-metre square floor area. They're all...
There, Britain's Neil Thomas. He starts his campaign with the pommel horse, not the most. German star Andreas Wecker, who played runner-up or second fiddle, as many athletes would say, to Yuri Keki in last year's World Championships, claiming the silver. At the moment, Wecker is on target to go one better. Korkina leads in the asymmetric bars for Russia, and in the vault it's Gina Gurban. Heat up indeed, as this is the finale to today's session. Well, the action seems to be got underway, and with one of the huge stars, the world and Olympic champion, Shannon Miller, will be the first to vault. She's just 16 years of age, from Edmond in Oklahoma, and the all-around champion of 93 begins the defense of her title.
And now a very much more mature Shannon Miller. And has she maintained her power to weight? 1.5 twisting Yurchenko with a step forward. 9-8 Tara. But obviously much more mature. A young lady now. Not a prepubescent school child. But the question is, has she maintained the power to go with her increase in size? And I'm not meaning that cruelly. Growing from girlhood to womanhood under normal circumstances is hard on the physique, let alone when you're a gymnast.
Well, in the World Championships a year ago, it was the vault in the individual apparatus that Shannon Miller decided not to take part in. But she performed extremely well in the all-around competition to score 9.787. And she seems to be on target once again. 9.712 for the first of the two vaults. Remember, the average of the two is the total scoring. And Shannon Miller, the big favourite to retain her world title here in Australia, seems to have settled, calmed the nerves nice and early on in this qualification competition.
So single-minded. She goes through her little psychological and physical preparations. Half twist feet, plie landing, half twist feet. Yes, still, it's a very difficult vault. There's so much cross-speed to anchor. There's rotation, twisting factor. You know, you're turning on two axes, the broad axis and the long axis, and with the cross-speed, and then a blind landing. Really hard to perform, and gives away one secret. They can't get double twist to Yurchenko, you see.
Well, 9.724 is the best aggregate score by Romania's Gina Gojian, with the defending world champion in this individual apparatus, Yelena Pushkin of Belarus, 9.712, second position. And now this is important for the Americans' confidence. This is still the qualification round, and 9.706, well, that puts Shannon Miller into third position in the vault, with her performance on the asymmetric that goes into extra or automatic mode, and he's on target for a second gold medal. A good run there from Ivanov, not to be confused with Ivankov of Belarus, as we now move back to the ladies' vault with Hughes of Australia. Young Joanna.
First vault. Yurchenko, full twist. And we get very complacent about watching these young girls produce vaults of such difficulty. Understand the required amount of work over the years that's gone in to produce a vault of that caliber. The overhead view shows the risk factor. There is a pad over the end of the board so that if the heels slip down, they don't come to grief. But she was very near the top of the board, and hands rather near the front end of the horse, which meant that she would close her shoulder angle off the top of the apparatus and snap the vault down. And the jump backwards on landing was really the result of that, where she didn't lift from the horse and get as much length as she could have done. She certainly had the cross speed, 9.45, first vault. And she gets another decent vault, even the same vault, same score under her belt. She'll be doing pretty well. Yes, that was a little better. Can't judge exactly until we see it from either the side or the top, where we can see the length from the apparatus, because that's really what dictates the judges' scores. A bit lower down the board, not... Yes, it wasn't quite so long, but better controlled at the end. But it was higher, yes. I think that vault could go above 9.45. Hope it does for her sake, because she really did put some effort to improve it.
Well, we should be seeing away from Grigory Mizyutin, an 11th position, 9.481 for Joanna Hughes. But Ivanov of Bulgaria, who only managed an 8th position in the floor final a year ago.
Turn their back on the judges when they know they've not done very well. But he has a sneaky feeling that he's done more than a good routine. And here, the French connection, Elodie Lussac, superb little 14-year-old, medalist in the Junior European Championships. Nice change of direction, but like so many, coming to grief. It's a good job it's not the all-around event, but it's a pity for her that it's on the A-bars, because she's a good A-bar worker. Very composed. Tiny little girl, only 140 centimeters and weighs 37 kilos. Oh, she went up and repeated the skill. That was brave. Coach in, ready for the catches. Good girl. Guts written all over her forehead.
At 14 years of age, the youngster from Marseille Well, like you pointed out, Monica, it's very pleasing to see the performer do exactly the same skill or maneuver that caused her to fall from the bar in the first place. And this is possibly one of the most closely contended competitions now, with Svetlana Chorkina leading for Russia, with Hatigan of Romania and Amanda Borden of the USA lying in joint third with Dominique Dawes. But a lot of the big names are making these mistakes. And as you quite rightly pointed out, it's a good job it's not in the all-around competition. Maybe more risks are taken, or higher and more difficult jumps. And a similar scoring for Elodie Lissac. Welcome back to the Brisbane. Shannon Miller for the United States of America has made her first performance and has shown.
And a moment that everybody here will be waiting for. Olympic and World Champion Supreme. A really great gymnast. And form through the off-season. And with all of the travelling he's had to encounter.
The best all-around gymnast in the world and in the Olympic Games. So the big star of the sport. And as our expert Monica Phelps has said, his lifestyle has changed somewhat since those 92 Olympic victories.
So who's still just as readily as he is anywhere else in the world, and they broke into his flat, stole his money, his medals, and I think he was a little bit disillusioned for a while. And the social problems have caused them to feel...
We switch over to the girls, and this looks like to be Joanna Hughes of Australia, and the 304 for the asymmetric bars, and in the women's...
Had a good start on vault, Joanne. Nice straight arm work on the shoot to handstand. Good clean exercise. Mid-routine difficulty, very adequate. Just needing a big dismount there to make that routine quite complete. Tall order for this young girl in competition 3, where a D dismount is expected. A nice Delchev somersault, working out of it well. It's not necessarily just doing the moves, it's working out of the moves and then adding yet another difficult skill on to the end. Hint of bent arms, which of course will be penalized 2 or 3 times in the support phase. I didn't see that. I looked at my notes and I missed the double back. It was a full twisting double back. So I'm saying she's needing a more difficult dismount, and she's got it.
Well, she needs to score above 9.500 to stay within those 8 competitors who will return at the weekend to vie for gold, silver and bronze, and 9.50 to go ahead of the Canadian girl Mary Lou Cousineau, currently lying in 8th position.
I think the routine warrants that. It depends on how many minor penalties she had that the judges picked up that we didn't whilst talking about the exercise. But on face value, it seems that it's worth 9.5.
Well, 9.812 is the best score in the women's asymmetric bar competition so far. Svetlana Chorkina, and she's outside, 9.300, 14th position. So that leaves Joanna Hughes with a possible chance in the all-around competition coming up later on this week on Friday. But for the asymmetric or draws to a close, as we have the Slovakian
Kucharkarova on A-bars. It's losing her feet and foot and leg tension on the circles and upstart. Full twisting giant, full twisting back away. With 2 somersaults in it. It's amazing how some of these girls can produce such a variety of complicated skills. Notice from the overhead level how they go over the bars, between them, over the top, underneath. They have to have at least 2 flight elements. That is over the bars, be at the bottom of the top bar, and at least 3 bar changes. And I wouldn't think material for the final. The front.
21st position for the Slovakian. Korečkova, 9.162. Now, I'm sure you can hear the cheers from the crowd. And this is what all the cheers of the crowd have been about. Shannon Miller, the asymmetric bars. This is the individual apparatus where she is the defending world champion, albeit in a controversial bout with her teammate Dominique Dawes a year ago.
Surely that was a front for the television, Steve Nuno giving her some last-minute instructions, because a gymnast of her caliber, the last thing she needs is her coach in her ear just before a routine. The start, clear half, looks tight. Full twisting hop, Ginger. 1.5 twist back straddle. Ooh, that was a dicey moment. A little bit itchy with the right hand. And double layout. Well, that will be controversial. Shannon Miller has had to go for difficulty. She has done. But she has stiff shoulders and slightly bent arms and slightly slack knees throughout the routine. They are very, very slight. But I think that the judges will either choose to like the routine or choose not to, and so it'll be a very close fought thing.
Well, there's not a lot of leeway when it comes to the point scoring. The degree of technical difficulty was quite clearly high. She seemed to be, as Monica pointed out, quite tight on many of the maneuvers, especially the dismount there. She didn't seem to give herself a lot of height or time. Whips that last back somersault through. She needs to score above 9.812 if she's to take the lead away from Svetlana Chorkina and Hadigan, who's in second position for Romania on 9.762.
And I can't see it because she did have a minor error. Well, it was a medium error, really, because she went 1.5 twisting giant, back straddle, and she nearly missed a hand. And it was apparent that she had a hand shift.
Well, the 2 American girls and teammates of Shannon Miller, Amanda Borden and Dominique Dawes, both lie in joint third position, 9.725. So, well, a replay of that showdown a year ago in Birmingham is on the cards as we await the score of Shannon Miller, the world asymmetric bars champion and, of course, the world all-around champion. And Shannon, well, in the Olympic Games was a bronze medalist in this particular. Important scores from 2 of the biggest stars, and look at that. The defending world champion of asymmetric bars finds herself in 7th position, 9.637, which means 2 performers go better than that score, and Shannon Miller is out of the individual. Begins, and the words from our experts here in the commentary box, Monica Phelps. Confident, Monica?
Yes, but I think no matter how much I want our home guy to win, I really think he's going to be hard to push to overhaul Sherbo.
Really has been set a very difficult target and a very difficult challenge to attack indeed. The women's vault competition is still wide open, and as we pointed out earlier, 8 slots her first vault. No, my mistake, and we return to the action, and Lavinia Milicevic is in action now as we return to the pictures. The silver medalist in the World Championships a year ago in Birmingham, 9.737. She's on target to take first position.
Milicevic, a real tough cookie. Medalist in the 88 World Championship, Olympic Games, world champion in 91 in Indianapolis. First vault wasn't as good as that. It was over-rotated. Second one was under-rotated a little. She really went to try and anchor the landing a little better. But looking fitter than she did in 93. 93, she was a little overweight when seeing her in the flesh. But on the box, she looks a lot fitter. Oh, rather a large step back there. But excellent dynamics. Good high vault, lovely. What a pity.
Well, Milicevic looking to return to the form that brought her Olympic gold in Barcelona in 1992, and she's there. 9.731. And she goes into first position. Gojian of Romania got that all-important borderline.
It was basically the lack of landing skills on all of his tumbles. And what, with polish, what he could have done. Monica Martin from Spain. Ready on vault. Two vaults. In the highest categories possible, and 2 scores average, so consistency is the name of the game. Yashchenko 1.5 twists. But as I've said so often, it's a blind landing, and accuracy is so important on a front landing. I don't know why they choose to do it. I know it gets extra marks on Tarras, but they lose on form. Very athletic run. And that was a matter of the floor hitting her rather than her hitting the floor. And this is why the knee bend was so sudden and out of control, because she didn't have, mentally, her brain didn't have time to adapt the muscles to the position she needed to be in. It only takes a split second for the message to get from the brain through the nervous system if the gymnast sees the floor first, or sees the floor as they hit it. But it was apparent there that she was blind when her feet...
On the floor, but the pommel horse was a disaster, and he will not be figuring or competing in that individual final at the weekend. Vitaly Sherbo needs to now put that behind him and focus on asymmetrics, it looks to be. Luis Portocarrero of Guyana.
And ready, Luis, started. Very nice release and catch into counter swing into Jaeger. It was meant to be a hop change, but she walked around, full pirouette on the top. Need good balance to do it that method. Another full twist. And full twisting double back. Louise, quite a big girl, and there was some difficulty in that routine. She had piked Jaeger into straddled Jaeger. Big dismount and cleanly executed. But technically, it wasn't good enough to make the top 8. Basically, that's the one-handed change from the handstand to the hop. Quite a big technical error. And in the closeness of competition these days, you don't get in the top 8 in the world with a large technical error in the center of your routine. But nevertheless, in saying that, despite that fault, there was some excellent routines, excellent work, good combinations, more than adequate difficulty, 2 Ds required, and more than 2 Ds fulfilled.
And also one of the smallest federations here, Guatemala. My mistake earlier on. And good to see them not only represented, but represented with a top class and quality gymnast. .587. Well, that's 8th position, and that is the cut-off mark. If nobody betters that score, Risa will be in the final of the asymmetric bars, and I'm sure she'll be delighted if she can. But there's possibly one youngster who can stop that, and that's Jamie Hill of Canada, next to compete. Of course, another rotation to follow this one. Anything can happen in these qualification rounds. We've seen many are upset.
Oh dear. After all that, and there's nothing one can do about that. If your angle of pitch to the floor is incorrect, you just get bounced back onto your seat. But very disappointing after putting in all that work to get through the routine with difficulties. And just a youngster, only 15, but she's got plenty of time, and she should learn from that experience. Half turn to handstand drop, see the arm bend, which really aren't permitted. There the Kachev. There the blind change and the forward giant front away, and she just put her feet out in front of her hips when she didn't have quite enough rotation.
9.812, the leader, Svetlana Chorokina, still holds on with Nadia Hatagan for Romania lying second, and the 2 American girls, Borden and Dawes, in joint 3rd spot. The surprise, possibly for most so far in the asymmetric bar competition for the girls, is that Shannon Miller finds herself down in 7th position, and quite easily the possibility of being squeezed out the Magic 8, and the defending world champion could quite possibly not be rejoining us in the individual. I keep repeating, these are the individual qualifications, not affecting the all-around competitions, which begin with the men on Thursday and the women on Friday.
And Jamie Hill just seems to have picked herself up reasonably well. Isn't by any stretch of the imagination devastated. But in a competition, once the damage is done, it's done. They really, and same in training, these kids have got to learn to pick themselves up and carry on. 8.687, and the 4 would have cost her 5/10. And to the final round of Subdivision C, Rotation 4, we have 2 groups. The last group on vault and the last group on A-bars. And within those groups, some very good gymnasts. We've got Elodie Lusat from France, who'd messed up on bars, but on vault could be very, very powerful. Lavinia Milicevic, who's just gone into the lead on vault, and that is just enough to psych her up, a big enough carrot to possibly let her overhaul everybody already on the asymmetric bars, including her own compatriot. Then, of course, we've got Lu Li from China, quite an unknown quantity. But by the years, as they develop and change, we're not sure whether they managed to retain the same power as they had a year ago. Looking good in warm-up there. And then from the Ukraine, Bulakova, Irina Bulakova, and to me only a name read from books. I haven't actually seen her in the flesh before. So quite intriguing, Nick.
Well, it is, and there's also worth noting that Shannon Miller in the asymmetric bar competition lies down in 7th position, and with, well, at least 2 competitors that we've ticked here in the commentary box that could push her down, possibly even 3. That means that it's very doubtful whether the defending world individual champion in this apparatus will return for the final at the weekend, and, well, for most of us that's the first big shock of the 29th World Championships of Artistic Gymnastics. Disappointing also for Vitaly Shervo, who started off his campaign in marvellous form on the floor, only to have an absolute disaster on the pommel horse. He too will not be in that individual apparatus final. So there have been some highs and lows for all of the competitors as we go into the last 20 minutes coverage from Brisbane, and all eyes on Milicevic, who started off in great form for Romania. She will be the first to go in the A-bars. And also, well, there's 1 or 2 that could also upset. And I'm sure Shannon Miller is watching Eurosport, probably not in Australia, but I'm sure the fans of Shannon Miller are watching very closely indeed. There's also 1 or 2 taking a nasty fall in the warm-up there, Monica.
Yes, it's amazing how resilient they get to, of course, the maps now improved in depth. And they're so well orientated that unless a hand slips, they can pretty well calculate how they're going to land. But this last round is going to be really exciting. To be honest, I didn't think Lavinia Milicevic would be here, because in 93 she looked overweight, she was bad-tempered, she looked as though she'd had most of her enjoyment out of the sport anyway. And I didn't think she'd continue this year. But she looks fit. She's got the eye of the tiger.
And of course, just in front of us here in the Ukrainian, she also seems to have grown an awful lot.
It looks like Lysenko. It's not Bulakova. Irina.
She quickly gets her warm-up as the last competitor of the 6th in the A-bars and 5 in the vault. To bring you up to date with the leaders and their scores, 9.812 is Chorokina, Svetlana Chorokina, who leads the asymmetric vaults, which are on your screen at the moment for the Russian squad. Nadia Hatigan of Romania 3rd, Amanda Borden and Dominique Dawes of the United States of America, both lying in 3rd position. Now, Lavinia Milicevic leads the vault, 9.737. Gina Gozhian, also of Romania, lies 2nd, and the defending world vault champion, Elena Piskun of Belarus, 9.712. So it's very close. There are no medals awarded today. It's all about qualification, with 8 places up for grabs. Well, testing our eyesight, but that looks to me like Lavinia Milicevic, number 380, leading the vault, the Olympic champion.
Just have to look at the arms. Lavinia Milicevic never wears her leotard down at her wrists, always rolls it up to her elbows.
Getting this final rotation underway with sleeves rolled up for action and work, Lavinia Milicevic of Romania.
She's on good form. Oh, armband, can't afford it. Leg split as well. Good beginning. I hardly breathed through that exercise.
Well, she's a double gold medalist in Barcelona in '92, but not in this apparatus. She picked up gold in the floor and, of course, in the vault. Now, in the asymmetric bars, she started off well, but she seems to have grown an awful lot since '92, Monica.
Well, she's slimmed down, though. In '92, she was quite bulky. I think she's got better power to weight moving across the bars. You see, that's a penalty. But she'll make the final on that. No problem. Absolutely no problem. She doesn't eat my hat. I'm not wearing one, but no, she will make the final on that. She did have a couple of mini crises, an arm bend on her forward giant and the leg split on her ginger.
Well, it was the A-bars where she claimed a World Championship gold medal in Paris in 1992. And all she'll be looking for here, one feels, is a good top 3, top 4 placing. And her mission for the day will have been accomplished, and she will have qualified for both of the finals that were to be qualified for today, with another 2 apparatus to be qualified for tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing Lavinia in this frame of mind and form in the floor exercise. I've got fond memories of seeing her delight a huge crowd in Barcelona on the floor, and she seems to have trained hard, dug in deep, and as you pointed out, Monica, possibly even lost a little weight and feeling a lot better for it. And she has been the name that has stuck out throughout this morning's competition. She awaits her score from the judges now for her A-bars routine.
She's done extremely well to maintain her world ranking over 6 years, because 94 now, she was in the medals in 88 in Seoul, and that is a remarkable achievement. What I can't understand with all that is she's still only 17.
Well, everything that we've said has been answered, multiplied, and also agreed with by the judges, because she's gone into first position. And that means a very impressive day's work indeed, as Milicevic leads the A-bars and the vault, and will certainly go through to the individual competition of the weekend as one of the big favourites.
And for the first time in my life, I've seen an overweight Chinese gymnast, Lu Li. For a Chinese gymnast, quite a chunky girl. In warm-up, she looked as though she could cope with it. Nice swoop through. Oh, a bit of men's high bar there. Lovely. A giant through, swoop through to dislocation. Back swing. She's definitely been working out on high bar. Come on, Lu Li, this is... Oh, yes. Excellent. Now, will she overhaul Milicevic? She could do, because that was one of the most interesting bar routines seen for some time. This is the first year in '94 that we've really seen some interesting work. Olympic champion Lu Li. And can she, 2 years later, maintain a world championship? Different shape altogether, grown a bit, but good, shapely.
We'll await that score as we go back to Ji Hae-sung of Korea. Her second vault, 8.675, and now let's not forget that this part of the women's competition, the vault, is also being led by Lavinia Milicevic, who may have been toppled off that spot from the Olympic champion in the asymmetric bars. But of course, Milicevic took a sweet revenge in Paris in the World Championships to claim the gold.
Very lucky. Missed the hand. Once you've generated that amount of cross speed, missing a hand, providing you keep your wits about you, you've got enough speed of the heels to take you over the top. You don't suddenly plummet to the floor, but see, hits the horse totally at the wrong angle, not enough heel speed, probably leaned on the board. But it says a lot, actually, for the mapping and the type of apparatus that the gymnast just bounced off. I mean, it just shows the quality of the apparatus these days. In my day, would have been carted off to hospital and never been able to walk again. Yes, overhauled, up into first position, 9-9. Superb routine there from Luli.
And that really does set the pace for a classic battle at the weekend between the Olympic champion of 92 and the world champion of 92. And I can confirm that that pushes the world champion of 93 out of the battle. It's goodbye to Shannon Miller, but some of the stars of yesteryear are battling it out, and it's going to be an absolute cracker. It really is. And it's not over just yet. Next on the asymmetric bars is Monica Martin of Spain.
What a daunting task for Monica Martin to follow Luli. But fortunately, gymnasts are of the nature that she would be insular and thinking of her own routine. But very clean. Very clean. The Rueda style, I can see. And the whip double back. Pike Jaeger. The undershoot half turn in the straddle float. You can see shoulders forward and some arm bend manifesting itself.
7.950. Understandably, after that tumble and fall on her second round vault for Choi Hee-sung of Korea. One of your favourite competitors, Monica, Elodie Lussac of France, next to take to the vault.
She's dynamite. She really is. I mean, she may be young. Look at the score, 9.562. Come on, she could... What do we need to get into the final on vault? 9.5? No, higher. 9.6. What a little curler. For Kristin Yurchenko. I mean, at one time, gymnastics was absolutely and utterly dominated by the Eastern European countries, and now some of them have gravitated towards the West. Eastern European and Soviet and Chinese coaches have spread their wings throughout the world and spread the word of good gymnastics and helped us all. But nevertheless, for a 14-year-old from France to rise up above a generation of Eastern European, Asian and Soviet gymnasts, you have to have a very, very special quality. And I can see it in her. She generates enthusiasm, doesn't she?
She certainly does, and she knows when to pull off a big one, and it was needed, but not quite enough. 9.625. If she'd have done that on the first vault, then the youngster from Marseille would have found herself in the vault final. But quite rightly pointed out by Monica Phelps, we've not seen the last of that youngster.
Anita Tumalevsky from Norway. Sorry, that was Frajanen from Finland. Same colours. Same bags, different colours, really. Handspring pike 1.5. That was quite a sound vault, a little bit messy around the legs, and quite an ungainly run, but you don't get marks for the run. It's what the run provides for you that affects the vault. Plenty of aggression, absolutely plenty of aggression. But unfortunately, I would think nominated pikes, and she tucked her legs, so she might lose 5/10 off her score for producing a different vault than she has nominated. I didn't see her number. 9.375. Quite a reasonable score for the vault. Good go. Bags of effort, absolutely stacks of enthusiasm and effort. 10 out of 10 for total commitment there, and that really is what the sport is all about. Without all the committed gymnasts, without all the effort from everybody else, our champions wouldn't rise.
And of course, you've got to have somebody come second, third, fourth, and down the line, as well as a winner. And here's a youngster in her first World Championships with a very gutsy performance. And it's not all about winners, it's about those that make up the start list, and an impressive performance from the young Finnish gymnast.
That was an impressive vault, actually. It was very, very high. Might not have been, the dynamics of the vault were excellent. It was just the finish of the legs and the feet that weren't so good. But relative to the tariff of the vault, that was a good vault. Kinklova from Czechoslovakia. Pavia Kinklova to the asymmetric bars. Last but one performer. And these the qualifying rounds of competition 3 of the 94 World Championships. Shortly we'll have decided the top 8 gymnasts on beam and asymmetric bars. Nice double twisting flyaway. And good, clean, well-executed gymnastics. Just not good enough to make a World Championship final.
It really has been a very difficult level for qualification in this asymmetric bars. As we said earlier, we've said goodbye to last year's world champion already, with the Olympic champions and world champions of 1992 in first and second position. But, well, a quite innovative entry and exit to the apparatus for Kinklova.
Clean routine. And to think that there are 109 female gymnasts in the world who can work at the level of competition competition 3 rather. 9.406. The vault. And now the world awaits the Ukraine on asymmetric bars.
One competitor left to bring our broadcast from Brisbane in Australia to a close. And the first half of 2 in the qualifications round for the individual apparatus has been as promising as we thought, with Vitaly Sherbo pleasing some and not others. 9.312, 25th position for Kinklova. She'll be a little disappointed with that.
But we already know that Shannon Miller is out of the final. To date, there's only 2 gymnasts from each nation allowed into the final.
So the last competitor, number 395, Irina Bulakova of the Ukraine.
Did an excellent routine in warm-up, so she could be one of our finalists. Nice full twisting giant. Blind change, forward giant Jaeger. Undershoot should have gone to handstand. Ginger. Blind half, double flyaway up. Yes, good routine, but I think she'll just be out of the top 8 there, because she had a couple of pauses and commas and full stops that stopped the flow of the sequence. So Tatiana Lysenko there. Teammate Lysenko obviously going round with her on the floor. Lysenko has entered in the all-around event later on in the week.
Well, a good routine, but difficult to qualify, and it's worth a note that the highest scores of the day have been, or come from, the asymmetric bars in the women's competition. Li Lu scoring 9.9. If she can pull that routine and that scoring off in the final at the weekend, then she will most definitely claim the gold medal. But what a great battle that it's turning into, with Lavina Milicevic, who's also had, one has to say, a very good day's work indeed, coming in second position in the asymmetric bars. And the final score, which we have been waiting for, 9.537, 14th spot, as we take a look at the qualifiers in the women's vault, and the best, Milicevic, Gosian and Pizquin. Well, Shannon Miller goes through in the vault with Korkina and Podgapeva And Kishning, Oksana for the Ukraine, number 393, the last. But for me, my money's on Lavinia Milicevic on that one. And the asymmetric bars, well, if Lilu can perform like that, Monica, in the final, there will be no stopping her.
No, it'll be a very close run battle, and I think a very exciting climax to the day's gymnastics. It was a long morning, a long evening for the Australians, a long morning for us, but very, very worthwhile, very rewarding.
Well, the sensation, one has to admit, of the women's competition, Shannon Miller, the defending asymmetric bars world champion, has departed, and she is out, which brings us to the end of our broadcast. Both myself, Nick Fellows, and Monica Phelps will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central European Time. Until then, we hope you've enjoyed our broadcast from Australia, and it's goodbye until tomorrow.
Goodbye.